listening to Convenience Matters, brought to you by NACS. We'll talk about what we see at stores and what the future may hold for our industry.
The 2024 NACS Show had record attendance, packed expo, packed halls, packed sessions. And the number one reason people go to the NACS Show is to see what's new. Nothing is more new and more interesting to retailers than AI, artificial intelligence. We had a panel in the general session, and we had a lot of people ask, can I hear it? Here's your lucky day. Take a listen.
So, throughout my career, technology has always been touted as something that will revolutionize work. And when I owned the chain of convenience stores in the Pacific Northwest, we really leveraged a lot of technology to really improve our labor productivity. But with AI, today, so what's different and what's similar really about the potential of AI with respect to revolutionizing work? I want to bring up a slide that looks at the challenges to success. There are really 5 of them. I want us to really spend a little bit of time on each one of them. So let's start with the human dynamics, right? There's a lot of people that are, fearful of AI, and they're fearful because they think it's going to cost them their jobs, right? Brian, you and I have talked about that a little bit in the past. How should companies really approach that? And is that a legitimate fear?
It's definitely something that we hear all the time. The human dynamic. Will AI take my job? Will AI destroy all human creativity, et cetera? And I think it starts with education. We need to educate our people. What's in it for me? How do we start to think about all of those tasks that our team is doing that are manual, labor intensive, that we can now start to automate or think differently about using AI or generative AI? What's in it for me is I can actually go spend time on the things that I actually want to go do. I can actually stay with the company, for longer because now I'm getting, I have access to these types of tools. So I think it starts with education. And I think it's more of a understanding that AI can amplify the human versus replace the human. So an AI, with a human is significantly better than just a human alone.
Victor, have any thoughts about this in your teams? Are they fearful of kind of AI replacing them, or?
I think nobody likes being told what to do, whether it be coming from a human, but especially from a machine. And that's where culture comes in.
Yep.
And they have to trust that you chose the right AI. And one of the things I do tell them is that, and this was the early days of Watson, and beating the Grandmaster. I was like, but Watson cannot beat another Watson combined with a Grandmaster. So I said, the human will always win as long as they have equal access. And basically, it just makes your job easier. You have to trust us.
So it is, both this fear of being replaced is intricately related to your internal culture and how people really view new technologies as not a threat, but really almost a gift to help them do their jobs better. And you kind of have to build that culture.
Yes. And I think it definitely helped that during the pandemic, we stood by them. We're not going to lay them off because this AI is going to,
even at NACS, I don't know about your guys' companies, but at NACS, everybody has more than a full plate of work to do, right? And they're always saying, hey, can you take something off my plate? And as we've tried to implement some AI projects at NACS, people are finding, wow, I can actually do my job better, more productive and so forth. Well, let's move on to skills and capabilities. Obviously, there needs to be, whether it's a fundamental shift, but there really needs to be a retraining or actually a training for many people for the first time on how to use AI, right? How do I go about integrating the value of this, exploiting the value of AI in my jobs? Brian, what's some of the best approaches to that training of people, introducing them to AI in the workplace that you've seen amongst many of your clients around the world? What have you seen there?
Yeah, a lot of clients are, and it varies, because there's quite a few that are testing this at the moment. Some just kind of throw the tools at their employees and say, just go have at it. Well, that doesn't work, right? A lot of people aren't used to using these tools. They're not used to the benefit they could actually provide. So there is, an upskilling and a kind of, in some cases, reskilling to help people understand, what's in it for me, what's the value, but also how do you best use these tools in your job? What are the use cases that will get us the most value? So, the organizations that are approaching skills and capabilities and understanding that the talent has to be a big part of that are seeing far more success than not.
So almost showing them a comparable use case. How do you use it in this use case? Victor, thoughts there?
I think it depends very much on who is working with the AI. If you're at the stores and AI is making your life difficult, guys, you've chosen the wrong AI. It is supposed to, essentially solve the cognitive parts of your labor problem. What to stock on the shelf, how much to order, and all of that. The tedious work nobody likes. But if you are talking about a category manager or a data analyst, AI, I think, does not really, again, I think the upskilling, you're talking about, okay, I'm going to, these are guys who are used to writing code or DAX, analyzing data, and this will only help them. You know more about AI than I do, of course, but I really think that if it's hard, I think we've chosen the wrong AI.
I love that point, and we were talking about this last night, that, in some cases, people are going to be the recipient of AI, meaning the output of AI, whether it's planograms or that type of thing, and they will never even know, right? It'll just be part of their normal job. And I think that point that Victor was saying yesterday, I think it's amazing. Other people, their job will change. What they actually do and perform, it will change, and they will work, almost symbiotically with AI.
I've experimented with it. I mean, Brian, you and I have been around the world at different conferences, I said earlier, and after the first one, I kind of said, well, I better start doing this stuff, right? Experimenting myself. And what I've really discovered is a perspective that it's another tool in the toolbox that helps me lead. What do I think about, hey, I've got to counsel somebody on an employment situation, kind of type in some stuff, it instantly goes like this. But that's the starting point, right? That's so I don't miss, something that I wouldn't have done, but wow, that's a great idea, but these other ideas I done applicable. So a lot of the training it's not replacement, but it's more perspective training than anything else on the tool. So, I mean, the next thing I want to talk about is just kind of data availability, because, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, EVs were going to take over the world, and we kept doing the analysis. There's not enough electricity to power them. And then here comes AI, right? And it's going to consume more electricity than EVs are. And what Microsoft just bought a nuclear power plant to power their AI usage there. So the amount of data that a lot of AI applications require and use is enormous, right? And we've all been through, if we've worked at all, and all three of us have, and many of you have, with a lot of data projects. And, there's the old saying that garbage in, garbage out. And a huge concern is kind of what's not only how do I handle this enormous volume of data, but how do I ensure the quality of the data that's going in? Because if you're putting in, not the right or bad quality data, you're going to get garbage out, right? So, Victor, I mean, if you guys haven't already gotten a clue that he's a tech geek, you never will. But Victor spends a huge amount of time on data, and you get an enormous amount of data from lots of different sources at Philippine Sevens to run your business. How do you manage the volume of data, the multiplicity of data sources, and the quality, the integrity of data? How do you do that? What are some?
Well, I think I told the story earlier of how we totally messed up with a very small bit of data. How much space do you devote to this category? and the AI took it at its word and sent down like a bunch of stuff that wouldn't fit. So on the other hand, on the larger data sets, and we do have a large one, we'll generate, upwards of 4 billion rows of data a year. And most of that, you actually don't use AI to manage it. When you do, you should not be doing it in your organization. You should be looking towards a platform. So we use OmniStream for variable planograms, but there are other, we'll find somebody else for loyalty. If you can analyze that in your organization, well, you should be competing with OpenAI. And you should be looking for platforms that are not just seeing your data, but the data of others. Because that's how AI works. The more data, the better trained.
Well, that brings up another topic, and that's data security, right? Where is your competitive data? Who has access to that, right? So how do you firewall off your stuff from the rest of the universe, so to speak? Mm-hmm. There's IP rights, and there are legal issues that are arising. Brian, what's your experience with working with a lot of clients, big ones, sophisticated ones, early adopters, users, and so forth, on this whole idea of data security? Where do you put firewalls in? Who has IP rights and so forth?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go through all the architecture diagrams we have them here, right? For where you put the firewalls in. Now, I think cybersecurity, I think everyone has figured out that it starts with the individual. It starts with the employee. It starts with every person in the organization. And a lot of clients that have been subject to phishing attacks or cyber attacks, it's always because of some weak entry point of an individual that may have clicked on that email that said, hey, that UPS package is waiting for me. But in reality, it's not. And now you have a bad actor coming in. So it starts with the training and actually kind of making sure that your data is walled off from everything else and that you're injecting those APIs into your data sets. There was the issue, actually when ChatGPT first came out, everyone was pretty excited about it. And some companies, there was individuals that uploaded all their contracts into ChatGPT. You need to realize that if it's going into ChatGPT, a public version, that's now getting trained into the models. So now if you ask questions of that, you now will see answers from those proprietary contracts. So it's very, very important that the individuals are trained and understand. And actually right now, Accenture, I just got a note last week, Accenture now has to go through mandatory deepfake training.
Well, even at NACS, we've really had to train our whole staff on, so what data do we put internally into an internal AI engine, and what do we use the external one? We're about out of time, and I think what I'd like to end the discussion with is really, for both of you, if there's one thing that people should do right now with respect to AI, what would it be? Victor?
So I think, well, it'll be two things, sorry. The first is,
You always do that too. I ask him always for one thing. He goes, well, if you only do two here, it'll be a new record. But
go out on the floor today and think about what problem you need to solve. And then find out which technology solves that problem for you. It may not be the shiniest one. It may not be the one with the biggest booth. But if you know what problem you want to solve, there is a solution out there. But the second bit is that, and this goes back to my Skynet thesis, guys, the internet, AI, they already know more about your customer than you could possibly know. But what they don't have, you can't really, unless you're a really weird guy, you're not going to have a relationship with an AI. So I would say invest in that last mile, in that relationship, because that's what, I wasn't able to talk about our lending platform, but all these digital banks have realized, they have all these algos, they have all this data, but if it's not a face-to-face transaction, if there's not somebody's relationship on the line, they don't get paid back to the tune of 20% NPLs. And that's why they're so excited to work with us. So invest in the relationships. That's one thing AI cannot do.
Brian, any last words on your advice on what people should do?
My advice. What you just said about what's the problem you're trying to solve is absolutely number one in any situation. But be curious. Start experimenting. Talk to your teams. Have the conversation. That's the starting point, and you'd be amazed at what the ideas are that will actually start to get generated.
Do something.
Do something.
Words, right? What a terrific and thoughtful discussion, really. I think there's a whole bunch of takeaways I have. Everyone, please join me in thanking our panelists today.
Convenience Matters is brought to you by NACS and produced in partnership with Human Factor. For more information, visit convenience.org.